3 ungrateful children buried their parents alive. What happened next will shock you. Before we continue, please tell us where you're watching from and the time. I always thought growing old would be peaceful. You raise your children, watch them grow, and dream of quiet days with your spouse. Rocking chairs, laughter echoing in a home built with love. That was the life Thomas and I dreamed of when we were young. And for a while it looked like that dream would come true. We had 3 children, Lucas, Brenda, and Carl. Each one so different, yet we loved them equally. Thomas worked as a school principal for nearly 4 decades, while I ran a small flower shop. We weren't wealthy, but we never let our kids feel the weight of our financial burdens. They had new shoes for school, full bellies at night, and all the love we could give. But time has a cruel way of revealing hearts. When Thomas turned 78, his knees began to fail. I was 74 and my hands would tremble while cutting vegetables or holding a cup of tea. We weren't sick, just old. And suddenly it felt like a crime. Lucas was the eldest, calculated, successful, and cold. He ran his own law firm in the city, barely visited, and when he did, it was with complaints. "Why is the house so dusty, Mom? You two should think about assisted living. You're not getting younger." Brenda, our only daughter, had once been the sweetest girl. But after marrying into money, she changed. She began to look at us the way one might look at a worn-out couch, something that had served its purpose, now just taking up space. "Dad can't even walk to the bathroom by himself," she whispered to Carl one evening. I heard her. I never told her that. Carl was the youngest, reckless and entitled. He'd never held a job for more than 6 months, always looking for shortcuts. When we refused to give him more money, he called us selfish. "You think I have time to babysit 2 dying fossils? I have a life." Thomas tried to laugh it off. He said, "They're just busy. The world's fast now." But I saw through it, and I saw through them. It wasn't just distance. It was disgust. We were a burden, an inconvenience, something to be solved. Then came the fall. It was a rainy afternoon. The porch was slippery and Thomas, always stubborn, refused to let me fetch the mail. He slipped. I found him minutes later, lying in a puddle, moaning in pain. I screamed for help. Brenda was the first to arrive. She sighed when she saw him. Not worried, annoyed. "You see, this is why we need to talk about other options," she said coldly, stepping over his soaked shoes like he was trash on the sidewalk. Lucas arrived hours later. He didn't ask how Thomas was doing. He asked about insurance. And Carl? He came 2 days later with an empty look and a cigarette hanging from his mouth. That night, I overheard them speaking in the hallway. They didn't know I was awake. "We can't keep doing this," Lucas said. "It's not like they have long anyway," Carl muttered. Brenda was silent for a long time. Then I heard her voice, soft but sharp. "What if we just stopped intervening?" I held my breath. My hands trembled, not from age but from fear. They wouldn't. They couldn't. Could they? It started with little things. Brenda stopped bringing groceries. Carl ignored our calls. Lucas refused to send money for Thomas's medication, even though we had covered his law school tuition without a single complaint. Then one day they showed up together. "We want to take you both on a little trip," Lucas said with a forced smile. "Out of town. A quiet cabin. Just for rest." Thomas smiled. "You kids are doing that for us?" Brenda nodded. "Of course, Dad. You need rest." Something in her eyes made my heart sink. It wasn't love. It wasn't concern. It was calculation. I should have said no. I should have screamed. But the years had worn me down. And part of me still wanted to believe my children couldn't possibly do what my instincts were screaming. We packed lightly. They took our phones, said there was no signal where we were going. Carl laughed about it, saying, "Old folks don't need TikTok anyway." The cabin was small, remote, and eerily quiet. Surrounded by woods, no neighbors for miles. They lit a fire, served us tea, and within minutes, everything went black. I woke up gasping, dirt in my mouth, the weight of the world pressing on my chest. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. And beside me, Thomas. His eyes fluttered open. Confusion. Then panic. We were buried. Alive. It's hard to describe the feeling of waking up buried alive. The weight. The darkness. The deafening sound of your own heartbeat in your ears. The air is thick and every breath feels borrowed, like you're stealing it from death itself. My hands twitched first. Then I heard it, Thomas beside me groaning. "Evelyn, he croaked, his voice barely a whisper. I couldn't scream. The dirt filled my mouth when I tried. But my hands moved, clawing, desperate. I didn't care about the pain. My fingers bent backward as I fought the earth above me. We didn't know how long we had been under. Minutes? Hours? Full day. But by some miracle or fate, someone heard us. A voice shouted in the distance. Muffled. Male. Then the sound of digging. Faster. Louder. Closer. And then, light. Cold air hit my face like a slap and I coughed, sputtered, cried. Thomas's hand reached for mine through the loose soil. We were pulled out one at a time like forgotten corpses being exhumed. The man who saved us was a stranger. Mid-50s, rugged, with sun-creased skin and hands that had known years of labor. His name was Joe, a retired veteran who lived in a small shack deeper in the woods. He had come out to collect firewood and heard a strange rustling sound from beneath the ground. He thought it was a wild animal. He never expected to find us. He didn't ask many questions that day. He just took us in, helped clean us up, and offered us something we hadn't felt in weeks: kindness. Joe's home was modest. A wood stove. A single bedroom. A pantry full of canned goods. He offered his own bed to us and slept on the couch. When we finally had the strength to talk, he sat quietly, listening. You don't have to say much, he said gruffly. But I can tell, someone did this to you. And if you want justice, I'll help. That night, Thomas and I lay side by side in silence. My body ached. My heart ached more. They tried to kill us, I whispered. Thomas didn't answer. He just turned toward the wall, tears soaking his pillow. We didn't go to the police. Not yet. There were too many questions. Too many doubts. If we reported it now, the children would twist the story, say we were senile, confused, delusional. Worse, what if they said we were never in that cabin to begin with? We needed proof. Joe helped us get back on our feet. He called in a favor from an old friend named Anita, a retired nurse who lived just outside the next town. She agreed to take us in for a while. No questions asked. She had a back room with a separate entrance and helped treat our bruises and dehydration. Over the next few weeks, Anita helped us blend in. We dyed our hair. We wore new clothes. And we used fake names, Mr. and Mrs. Green. From Anita's quiet home, we began watching. We created fake social media accounts and followed Brenda and Carl. Lucas was harder. He kept a low profile, but his law firm's website listed events and locations he would attend. Joe, resourceful as ever, managed to tap into public cameras and forums to help track their movements. And what we saw. They didn't even pretend to mourn. Brenda posted vacation photos 2 days after we were gone. Smiling. Drinking wine on a yacht. Carl was spotted in Las Vegas, gambling away money we didn't even know we had, while Lucas hosted a networking brunch at our family home. He walked through the garden Thomas built with his bare hands, showing off to his colleagues. They didn't deserve this house, he said in one video. But it's finally mine. That was the night something inside me snapped. No more grieving. No more disbelief. If they wanted to bury us, we would rise. Revenge isn't just about rage. It's about patience, precision, and justice. Thomas and I weren't vengeful by nature. But this wasn't about spite. It was about setting things right. And with Joe and Anita beside us, we began crafting a plan that would make them wish they had never looked us in the eye. We started with letters. Old-fashioned, handwritten letters, and signed. Each one containing a sentence only the intended child would recognize. To Brenda. I saw you break Mom's favorite vase and blame it on the cat. You were 12. To Carl. You cried when Dad didn't come to your 4th grade play. You promised you'd never forgive him. But you did. To Lucas. You said if you ever became successful, you'd buy the house and take care of us. We believed you. Each letter was placed in a plain envelope, sealed with wax, and dropped in their mailboxes under cover of night. Within days, their behavior changed. Carl started sleeping with the lights on. Brenda called a psychic. Lucas hired a private investigator. Then came the hauntings. Thomas still had his old toolbox, and Joe helped install small Bluetooth speakers in their vents and garages. We used audio recordings, whispers of their names, faint lullabies from their childhood, and once, the sound of shovels digging. It worked. Paranoia bloomed like mold. They started to turn on each other. Brenda accused Carl of staging the letters. Lucas shouted at them both in public, claiming they were messing with his career. Meanwhile, we were just getting started. Paranoia is a powerful thing. It doesn't just make people nervous, it unravels them. And that's exactly what we saw happening to our children. The cracks were small at first. Carl stopped answering his phone for days at a time. Brenda took down all her social media profiles and stopped posting photos. Lucas changed the locks on the family home and installed new security cameras, even though he lived alone. Each of them had a piece of the guilt lodged in their chest like glass. And with every whisper, every letter, every silent reminder of what they'd done, the glass cut deeper. But it wasn't enough to scare them. We needed them broken. So we took it further. Joe's friend Anita helped us forge documents. Old family records, insurance policies, and handwritten notes. Things only Thomas and I would know. We slipped them into places the kids would find them. Inside a cereal box in Brenda's pantry. A family photo from 1986 with, "You forgot us," scribbled on the back. Inside Carl's glove compartment. A voice recorder playing Thomas's soft humming, his favorite song when he used to rock Carl to sleep. Inside Lucas's office mailbox. A single rose from our garden. Wrapped in a page torn from his third-grade report card. That was the moment things truly started falling apart. Carl got into a bar fight and was arrested. Brenda was spotted in a pharmacy buying sleeping pills and anti-anxiety medication. Lucas. He snapped during a courtroom trial and had to be escorted out for screaming at an elderly witness. They didn't know who to blame. But they knew something was coming. And it was. Fear was the appetizer. Ruin was the main course. We had already buried our dignity once, deep in the cold, suffocating ground. We weren't going to bury our justice too. The next phase of our plan took shape through digital footprints. With Joe's help, and the quiet assistance of a former student of Thomas's who worked in cybersecurity, we started digging. And what we found? Shocking but useful. Carl had been scamming people online through fake investment schemes. We gathered screenshots, emails, transaction receipts, and sent them to every victim with an anonymous tip to report him. He was arrested within a week. Lucas had lied on a major legal filing involving a corporate merger. One simple anonymous message to the board of directors with attached proof? His firm let him go, to avoid reputational damage. Brenda's life was built on reputation. Charity galas, church committees, and elite garden clubs. We sent her church board an email chain where she mocked the elderly behind their backs and used slurs to describe lower-income neighbors. Her membership was revoked. Her husband left her quietly 2 weeks later. Each one was now alone. Isolated. Stripped of wealth, status, and power, the very things they had valued above their parents. Thomas and I watched from afar, sometimes in disbelief, sometimes in grim satisfaction. Not because we enjoyed their suffering, but because justice had finally begun to speak. We sent the final letters together. Each one hand-delivered by Joe under the cover of night. The content was simple. Return to the cabin. Come alone. All answers will be given. All debts will be paid. The next evening, just as planned, they arrived. One by one. Brenda wearing dark glasses, trembling with each step. Carl pacing, paranoid, a visible scar on his cheek from the bar fight. Lucas, stiff, defensive, still pretending he had control. We didn't greet them right away. We let them stew, surrounded by memories of what they had done in that place. The fire pit. The old rocking chair. The scent of pine and damp soil. Then Thomas and I stepped out of the shadows. Alive. Breathing. Changed, but still very much here. Brenda screamed. Carl collapsed to his knees. Lucas backed away slowly like we were ghosts. Impossible, he whispered. You buried us, Thomas said quietly. But you didn't finish the job. I looked at each of them. You were our children. Our whole world. And you chose greed over blood. Carl stuttered. It was just supposed to be quiet. Peaceful. We didn't think you'd wake up. I asked. No, you didn't. And that's why we're here. They begged. They cried. They asked if we were going to press charges. Thomas pulled out a manila folder. Inside, photos, audio recordings, videos, evidence. Every betrayal. Every crime. Every lie. This is going to the press, he said, unless you agree to one thing. We gave them a choice. No jail. No lawsuits. No police. But they had to publicly confess. Apologize. Donate every remaining cent of our estate to a care foundation for abandoned elders. If they refused, we'd release everything. Their reputations would be shredded beyond repair. Brenda hesitated. Carl cried. Lucas clenched his jaw, silent. But they all agreed. 2 days later, a video went live. The three of them sitting at a long table. Shaking. Lucas spoke first. We are here today to confess something unthinkable. Carl followed. We tried to abandon our parents. Bury them. We thought they were in the way. Brenda broke down halfway through. They loved us. And we treated them like garbage. The video went viral. News sites picked it up. Donations poured into elderly shelters and nursing homes. The public was horrified but moved. And strangely, no one ever knew where Thomas and I were. We watched the confession from Anita's house. Holding hands. Breathing in the justice. We didn't go back to the city. We had no interest in the house. The cars. The name. We moved to a small coastal town far from everything we once knew. Quiet. Peaceful. Simple. The kind of life we had hoped for all along. With what remained of our savings, we helped the local community open a shelter for abandoned elders. A place where no one would be forgotten. No one would be thrown away. Joe visited often. Anita became like a daughter. And on a quiet morning with the ocean breeze brushing through the window, I sat down and wrote a letter to the world. We were buried. Forgotten. Left to die. But from that grave we rose again, not to haunt but to remind. A parent's love is not a guarantee. It's a gift. And when you choose greed over love, don't be surprised when the grave you dug becomes your own. Thomas looked at me and smiled. I guess growing old is peaceful after all.